Hey, how's it going everyone? Epic Pale here. Today I'm going to be working on my 2020 Kawasaki Ninja 650. I'm going to replace the air filter, replace the spark plug, and do an AIS delete to install a Grave Motorsports blocker plate. I'm going to be preparing the bike for an ECU flash, which I will be doing a mail-out ECU flash in the coming days after this video, and I will update you guys on that once it arrives. I'm going to be doing all of this using the following tools out of this tool bag that you see here for me to get accustomed to them and to make sure that I can use this for any repairs from anywhere in the future. Now over here we have all our parts I will be working with. Here we have our DNA air filter, our NGK spark plugs, and the Smog Block plate from Grave Motorsports that also comes with a little plug that would go over where the AIS tube would go on the airbox. The air filter comes pre-oiled and does not require any grease. Moving on over here, here's my little riding buddy, Squeak Squeak. Before beginning, if you haven't, remove the seats and we will start by taking off the tank. We begin by removing these two screws first to remove the seat bracket using a 5mm Allen key. You can use the pliers to give you a better grip if the screws are on tightly, like so. Then we remove the next two screws holding the back part of the tank, again using the 5mm Allen key and the pliers to give you a better grip. I just want to point out, I'm not an expert here and I apologize if I do anything wrong. It's the first time taking apart this bike and I'm doing this without further instruction, so please forgive me for any mistakes I may make. Now we'll start removing parts of the fairing. I'm using a 4mm Allen key that will be used for most of the screws on the fairing. We'll remove the following screws, starting with this one here that is by the seat and on the right side as well. Now carefully pull back the side piece here to separate the fastener, however they are called, forgive me for using the wrong name. We will be loosening the screw here as well in a bit. Coming back to this side, carefully pull the side piece here, you see the fastener. Careful not to yank too hard. Jumping up here, we are going to go ahead and remove the tank cover. Be careful not to drop the metal and clear bushing from these two screws. Next, we take off these side screws. Again, I'm still using a 4mm Allen key. For anyone watching this confused as to what the hell this guy is doing here, again, I apologize if I'm doing this out of order or wrong. Right here, I'm going to use the screw using the heck piece marked T25 so I don't scratch anything with the Allen key. Now we're just going to push this up a bit and then forward and up again carefully and just wiggle it slowly until it comes off. Here we see what was holding it down. Be sure you have a space to put any separated parts using cardboard or some soft material on a flat surface. That will keep any parts from getting any scratches or damages. Now we work on the last two screws holding the gas tank. I'm using a 5mm Allen key. Again, if the screws are on tightly and you don't have a wrench or better tools, use the pliers to give you a better grip. Now I haven't pulled these out yet to keep things organized. Just be sure to remember to find a system that works for you to keep everything organized. Going to move the table back a bit more to give myself more room here. Now we remove the screw here and the same one on the other side using our 4mm Allen key. Now here I am trying to pry this portion of the fairing apart. This is a mistake. Make sure you remove the following screws that I will be removing here in a bit. Right on here, there's actually a screw right underneath the black part here. And right above here, there's the screw that you can see right there. That is holding this whole thing together. That's what I will be removing once I realize my mistake. Now I do have a timestamp down below in case you need to skip this part. I am keeping most of the whole process just for reference. We'll be removing this screw here. And carefully we pull this middle black piece out from the ends and pull back to pull it off. Then we will remove the following screw here to be able to pull the side piece off with the tank. Now this screw here, you do not need to take off, but it can give you a bit more wiggle room when removing the tank. The satin piece up here is a whole part to take off that wraps around the front as part of the dash, but I'm trying to do all this work with the least amount of parts and fairings removed from the bike. This top portion of the fairing here that I'm trying to pull has a sort of hook latch onto the bottom tank fairing. You're going to need to pull it up and out to separate the pieces. And be careful not to break any plastic. Also, the side piece has one last screw on the front part of the tank. You can remove easily if you manage to remove more fairing than I did. Or you can try to squeeze under this to remove it. I, however, will not and will take the tank out with the side pieces attached. And I'm just going to put the screw back on now. Just be careful as this is mostly plastic on plastic. You do not want to accidentally break anything here, so keep that in mind. And now let's head over to the other side and do the same process I did on the left side. Remove the screw here. And we will pull this piece out and back carefully not doing the same mistake I did here. I forgot how to remove this, and that you need to pull this part back. Otherwise, you will struggle removing the screw that I will be taking off in a bit, and accidentally pop out the piece flying here like you will see in a bit. Luckily, nothing broke, but do keep in mind to be careful if you don't want to damage anything. Okay, back to the screw here. Now I'm sure a lot of you are looking at me like some sort of idiot working here, so I do apologize to anyone. Okay, we can start taking this tube off the tank. Gonna cheat here and use this tool here made for removing these clamps. Although it doesn't seem I need them, this tube seems to wiggle off no problem. Next we have to unplug the fuel pump plug by removing this cover here. We're going to be removing these 3 screws. I ended up unscrewing 4 here, but the middle one you do not need to remove. As you can see, once I remove the cover here, it is just holding the 2 pieces together. Now, removing the fuel pump plug carefully, pull the clip out and pull the plug carefully as to not break anything. Now we can begin to carefully go ahead and try to lift the tank. Remember, there are two other plugs underneath this tank. Going to get a flashlight, hopefully let you guys see better in case this camera is too dark. And lifting this tank too high, again I accidentally yanked this tube here. Luckily nothing leaked out, and now we've removed this other plug. Trying to figure out which way to remove it, but going to remove it by the tank by lifting this clip using the flathead piece for the screwdriver. Now before you actually pull the plug, be prepared for some fuel to leak out. Don't freak out, it's just a few drops, it won't all come out. Now for this, we can use a small flathead screw, or if you have a helping hand holding the tank, there are some hinges holding this orange colored clip to clip this to remove this plug. Just be very careful when removing the tank here, as you do not want to accidentally drop your tank and damage something or worse, as that would be a very bad day for you. Alright, now we can take off the tank and move it somewhere safe and on a soft surface to not scratch anything. Heading back here, we can start work on the airbox. Let's remove this rubber cover on the cable. Make sure everything is good over here and clean. We'll start by removing these brackets here holding the ECU cable down. Again, all the tools I've been using come from this one tool bag. I have not touched this at all minus this guy here. All the tools I used so far come from this tool bag, Cruise Tool Speed Kit. Pretty awesome. Let's take these screws off. They are a bit tight, so let's use our handy pliers for extra grip. Now I have these just in case, but in case you don't have more tools, you can use this plier method to give you a nice twist for those tight screws. Like so. As for the reason I'm using only these tools is just to show in case you are stuck out somewhere and for whatever reason you need to use these tools to take your bike apart to this extent. Now we carefully walk around to see how to move these cables away from the airbox. We will be removing these 3 fasteners in total to be able to move this cable away to open the airbox better. Now you can use correct tools or be an idiot and do what I just did here, so be careful not to cut yourself. Just like I did. Unless you want to give blood sacrifice to the motorcycle gods like some sort of ritual. It would be best to use correct way or tools to remove these fasteners, but this is how I will be doing it. I apologize to anyone watching this idiot. It is of course my bike and I do this how I want, and you should as well do it how you want. Again, be very careful. Unless you want to check off on some to-do list, blood sacrifice to bike guards like I did. Moving forward, we can move the cable out the way enough to start removing the following screws. There are 8 total, 4 on each half of the airbox. Again, be very careful. If you look carefully, there are some blue lines on the screw and airbox to where they should be matching up whenever you put it all back together. And make sure you remember where everything goes, as they should be. Make sure you have open space when working, so in case you drop something, you can see where it landed. Again, I'm doing everything with this one tool bag. And I bought this bag used, so I'm not sure if this came with its own if you buy it new. But I do have another tool bag that came with the bike when I bought it. And it's in the back seat, which I have yet to look at. Alright, now that we have those 8 screws off, we can now slowly start pulling the top airbox and wiggle it around the cables to pull it open. And here you guys go, the inside of the airbox. Let's get these intake plugs with some paper towel, and let's try not to drip blood in here like some sort of sacrificial ritual. That's probably the least place you want to drop blood into. Now, I think it's a little too hard to see here, but the spark plugs are located down here, as well as the AIS pump we are removing to put the block off plate on. We're going to need to remove the airbox fully to get to that, so let's resume taking this apart by removing this plug. And we will need to remove the spatina here too again. Careful not to cause more bleeding rituals again. We'll get back to that in a bit. Let's take this filter off first. Now I have not yet reached the miles needed to replace this, but I do have a full exhaust, so I need this bike to breathe better. You just gotta take this one screw here and just pull it out. And here we see the filter is filthy and it got some pieces of leaves here. Now the stock filter has a grilled piece on top, while the DNA filter does not have one. Now I did email DNA directly on my questions in case you have them too. I had asked them if you need to grease the outer side for fitting, do I need to pre-oil it, and does this grill need to go on this or is mine missing it? And they answered no grease needed, it comes pre-oiled, and it goes without the grill. Just pop it in as is and it is ready to use. Now it's a good chance to give your Airbox a good quick wipe and just pop this bad boy in. Push it a bit around the edges to make sure it's seated good, and we can go ahead and screw it on, not too tight. The filter has its own screw, so no need to remove it from the stock filter. Just have a look around to check it's on good before I close it back up and give it a good look at the spark plug and find where the screw is to loosen the airbox. Now I'm going to cut video for a bit to find out how to remove the airbox in just a second. Okay, sorry for the interruption, now to remove the airbox. Now what I'm going to do is put the airbox back together, just gonna put these screws back on. Give it a close look as it gets tight to make sure the blue mark aligns with each other. Let's get back to this fastener to take it off, trying not to apply too much force to avoid breaking anything. This is to be this one, right here. And you want to push downwards. And then the last fastener on the airbox is over here on the right side. Now getting down here, let's try to get a closer look. Hopefully you can see that screw down here. Right here using the 3mm Allen key. Going to push down these cables to get a better hold on the screw from here. It is a screw that is on a clamp. And we do not need to remove the screw, just loosen it until we can pop off the airbox. But not remove it yet, as we still have a few other tubes to unplug first. Down here we have a clamp on this tube. It's going to be finger tight base, so try to work in to loosen that clamp. It would probably be best to use your hands on this one here. There we go. and wiggle it loose. Lifting this up carefully, we got one last plug here where the AIS plugged into. Just pull that out carefully. And here we go, the airbox is out. This is where the little plug goes. And here is the clamp I was loosening just earlier. Gives you guys a good overview of the airbox. Let's get some paper towel and carefully plug the intake here. And looking up here, we can see where the spark plugs are. Just unplug these two plugs here. It is a bit dusty, you might want to clean before you proceed with this. And just try first by hand, wiggle these coil packs up. If not, try to carefully use pliers without using too much force and wiggle them until you can pull them out. You don't want to apply too much force and end up breaking something and end up out of service until you can get new parts. Make sure you remember which coil pack goes in which slot. Again, just a quick note to be sure to clean around here before you start removing these, as I got some sand around the coil pack and probably inside the spark plug. I'm gonna give it a quick clean to avoid any more sand in. Let me just put this light up here so you can see better. Alright, let's start by using the spark plug tool and L key, just like so. Just need to make sure I'm using the right side first. And just work your way to loosen these spark plugs. Let's take a moment to remember the tried and true lefty loosey, righty tighty. Now these are on pretty tight, so be sure to check your torque specs on these or when you place them back on. I'm doing this by hand using the tool bags. Now it is a bit difficult as you can't tell or get a good feel if you are loosening it up or if they are off already, so wiggle away. At a certain point here my camera overheats and I will be switching to the overhead camera. Once the spark plugs are loosened, try using the spark plug tool to remove the spark plugs. And we can go ahead and put in the new spark plugs. If you are able to reach your finger down there, try to make sure the spark plugs are actually getting tightened to make sure everything goes back on right. The right side for me was not tightening at all, and I was just turning nothing for a good while, but eventually got it to tighten. Just make sure you reach in down there to just make sure that the spark plugs are actually getting tightened. And just give it multiple checks to ensure that it's tightened up. Okay, now we put the coil pack back on, remembering which one goes where. And just put them back on and wiggle by hand to get it in and seat it all the way as far as you're able to. Have them face the way they were on. Once they're in all the way, we can go ahead and start working on the AIS plate. Using the only bolt piece for the screw and using our tried and true plier method, we're going to loosen the front screw on the plate and then the one on the back of the AIS plate. So I managed to stop recording to get things a bit moved around and get this camera onto a portable battery charger while my GoPro cools down. Let me just get this camera down here and close up. Hopefully you guys can get a better view. There we go. There's just another screw back here that is on tightly, and I'm just going to use my plier method. Move this out the way. Alright, now we work on the back screw. Always remember, lefty loosey, righty tighty. Now we just remove this blue plug here, and the AIS should come out with nothing else holding it down. Should be a simple push down pin, and just wiggle it out. If you're having trouble like I am, carefully use the pliers. Do not apply too much pressure and just pull it up. And just simply take the AIS out. Just to show you guys, this is the whole piece we are removing. Going back here, this is where we will be putting the block off plate. Clean the area if you'd like while you have it opened up here. Now I forgot to do this and I will go back later, but be sure to add thread lock to the screws before putting the block off plate on. Once it's all on and screwed, you can go ahead and put the spark plug back on the coil pack. Now here you can put a resistor on this blue plug to avoid any error light coming on, but I'm going to leave this out here in the meantime as is, as the ECU flash will remove that problem. Last but not least, on the airbox, this piece that comes with the block off plate goes on the airbox right here. Just work your way to get it on as far as it lets you. Carefully, if you need to use some tools to push it further, give it a bit of a push. Just get it on as best as you can. Now we can take these paper towels off and we can begin the process of putting everything back together. This is basically all a reverse process, but I record this through as I want to point out an important part of this process: to always remember to remove all unnecessary items and everything is plugged back as it was. As you will see, once everything is back together, I completely forgot to remove the paper towel inside the airbox. And later on, when everything is put back together, you will see what happened when starting it this way, as it will cause quite a scare. Luckily, the paper towel did not shred or get sucked into the intake, and it was a very lucky experience, and it could have gone wrong. Now, if you want to skip all this, be sure to check the timestamp below to skip ahead to where I put it all together fixed and give it a test start with the new plugs and air filter in. And just a reminder, always remember to do a test start before you put everything all together. Once the tank is on, be sure to test start there and then, or else you will end up in the same situation I did, putting the fairing all on only to remove it again. of a bitch. Oh God, please. And we'll try for it to kind of, that didn't sound very good. Oh, turn that off. Here you will see exactly what happened after reopening Airbox to get the paper towel out of here. Again, luckily nothing worse happened. Now we're going to try again, but only as far as putting the tank back on, and we will give it another test start. Fingers crossed, guys. Unless you want to see me fuck up my own motorcycle, then by all means, pray for it. Oh, baby. Oh, Lord. I probably shouldn't have revved it like that without letting it. But I couldn't resist it. And then I fucked up my motorcycle. That was my own fault. Now let's just fast forward here. I'm simply putting everything back together now to test ride before I get the ECU flashed. which I will upload a separate video on that, so stay tuned. Now everything was done using this toolkit. I'm not getting paid or promoting this product. I'm simply showing you what I used in case you get interested in it too. Let me try to get everything together and visible for you to see. Everything you see here is what goes in this little bag. And I will have any and all info down in the description, as well as I will try to scan and upload from a service manual on the air filter and spark plug replacement. Alright guys, I hope this video helped someone out there, as I could not find much on this particular model, so let me know in the comments if something is wrong or you have any questions yourself on this. Remember, failure is our biggest lesson. Epic Pale signing out.